So, you click the fight button for the first time. What awaits you on the battlefield? How to control robots and how to win. I'll tell you about everything in today's Xena Guide. Welcome to Defeat channel for yet another Xena Guide. Today, we'll talk about your first match in Xena. Okay, why am I talking about the game before disclosing effective builds like we usually do? Well, firstly, I think it is worth understanding the very basic mechanics of the game before polishing these pro tactics. Therefore, watch this video until the very end and I will tell you a lot of things. How to capture towers. Are there many real players in Xena right now? What types of towers actually exist? And what you should do to increase your chances of winning. Okay, so ready, steady, let's go. First of all, if you are a total newbie in Xena, you should definitely watch this introduction guide first before continuing with today's video. Believe me, you definitely will need it. Anyway, let me remind you real quick the Xena rules once again in short. 10 players participate in the battle, which lasts around 6 minutes. You control squads of robots and draw routes from one tower to another to capture it. As it's a sort of battle royale game, players must avoid devastating dust storms so as not to lose. And finally, the last one standing wins. The first thing you'll see after clicking on Fight is the opponent's search screen. As you know, in Xena, you can compete against real people and bots. So here's our tip on how to distinguish bots from real players. Bots usually have these legendary and epic cards, although sometimes you can meet these free ones. And believe me, they give themselves away almost instantly. Bots don't have skills. Real players use free accounts only while in beta. This will change after the NFT collection sale. Usually humans connect one by one, while a bunch of bots is added when the search didn't find enough real players. Bots are acting stupid in the game, so just play the game and you'll definitely notice that. Anyway, if you start the game with bots, I think it is a blessing from above. You'll be able to get an easy win almost instantly, even playing for the first time ever. Okay, so we found the opponents and the game finally starts. To begin with, there are different maps in Xena. And besides, the spawn location is also determined randomly. This means that you are unlikely to be able to make far-reaching plans before you get into the game. So here you are in the game. So the first thing I would recommend you to do is simply look around. Both players and bots can send superior troops to capture your factory. So if everything is safe, just send robots to capture the nearest tower within 5 or fewer points. To capture any tower, the number of your troops must be greater than the tower defense. To do this, just draw a route from your starting tower to the tower you want to capture. It doesn't have to be straight, because sometimes it's worth using different paths to get around the enemy or difficult terrain. Yes, believe me, there will be many obstacles. While your Full Metal minions complete your orders, let's have a look at the interface itself. So, what do we have here? The scale of troops is indicated on the left side of the screen. When withdrawing troops from the tower, the percentage of all units in the tower that are indicated on the scale will be withdrawn. There are 4 types of values: 100%, 75%, 50%, and 25%. On top, scale with all the information about your opponents is divided into 10 parts. In each part, a number is written indicating the number of units the player has. The choice of abilities appears in the first and the third minutes of the game, and only if you have at least one ability. We'll share a detailed guide on abilities pretty soon, so stay tuned. The zoom button is located in the bottom left corner. By holding it, you can see the entire map and the location of your rivals. You can also use space on a desktop version for that. The button with information about opponents is located in the lower right corner. When you click on it, you will see detailed information about all your opponents, including their skills. You can look around on the map and assume what is the best place to move on. If you're using a desktop, you can do it with WASD buttons. Our first rule here is always try to move closer to the center and avoid staying too long on the map corners. Otherwise, the storm will get you. By the way, speaking of storms, it is a decider here. So the game mechanics forces you to move around the battlefield. And the storm has several action phases, the last of which narrows down to almost like 0. The work and timings are the same on all maps. The chosen center inside the storm is 100% random. Cohorts and towers affected by the storm take damage until they finally die. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, you won't even have time to withdraw your troops because of this devastating dust storm randomizer. So what's left here, I guess? Better luck next time. So to save your arse from the storm, I repeat once again, you need to move. Hope this one is clear. And the only way to move is to capture these towers. So, by the way, while we're on it, let's take a look at their different types. There are 48 objects on the map in total, of which 10 starting towers, sort of factories, 20 neutral factories, 9 warp ambushes, and 9 power stations. The factory produces units and is also protected by a defensive system. Warp ambushes hides the cohort in it. Other players see no sign of you in there, nor a warp ambush's radius. Only the player who owns the warp ambush sees the number of units. An enemy cohort that is within range of a warp ambush is automatically attacked by the cohort owning the tower, with the attackers having an attack bonus. Besides, bonus damage in radius can be increased by abilities. So what you should keep in mind first is that warp ambush doesn't spawn units by default. Spawn can be enabled only with a special ability. The next type of tower in Xena is the power stations. It is a building that helps all your buildings produce robots faster or increases the movement speed of all your cohorts. Power stations also doesn't spawn units by default, and like warp ambushes, spawn can be enabled with a special ability. Power stations also have different looks and abilities, but I'll tell you how you can easily distinguish one from another. What you should do first is look at its module. Hammer-like, increase in production, and pyramid shape, increase in speed. And the last one, container, a building that doesn't belong to anyone, but begins functioning after being captured. Okay, last but not least, landscape. So the map landscape is made up of pixels, and each pixel, except for those on which the buildings stand, has its properties. Field slows down a unit by 15%, but roads speed it up by 20%. Forest will slow you down by 20%. Mountain will do that by 60%, and finally, water will slow you down by whopping 70%. Therefore, this is why I told you before, sometimes it's better to draw a longer route across the road than a short one across the water. Okay, finally, as we promised, let's proceed with some helpful tips for Xena. Look around the whole map to understand in which direction to move. Then send the whole cohort to the nearest tower with low defense. If it turns out to be a factory, you can even double the production of all your robots for an early advantage in the game. In the middle phase, keep at least 25% of your robots in towers, in case your opponents will try to capture it. And like I said before, move closer to the center. If your nearest opponent is stupid enough to send all of his robots to capture some towers, well, just feel free to capture his robot factory, thus eliminating him instantly. Okay, here's an obvious one. Try to capture as many factories as possible. Okay, this one is very important. Withdraw some troops from the factory when they hit the max number of 20, because factory simply can't store anymore. So why you should stall the production? Okay, so as you're done with your first match in Xena and finally understand all the basic mechanics, how about learning some real things? Like always, we're here to help you. In the coming guides, we'll explain to you the most effective builds, how to distribute talents and abilities wisely, what you should do first in the battle, and how to win the most of your Xena games. So, may luck be with you, and see you soon in the battlefield.